Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys Secret Base figure preview video. Before we begin, I want to say a massive thank you to Ryan Kirkwood for going out in person and snapping these badass high-res pictures and videos. Show Ryan some love in the comments below because without him, this series literally wouldn't be possible. If you are looking to grab your very own 21 inches of Venom, he is available from Pop Collectibles. I have popped the link to their site in the description below. As always, do your own research, make sure you are comfortable before buying. I've also included the discount code Justin's Collection for 5% off your order if you do decide to buy from them. Usually Hot Toys do like to wait for a new game, movie or TV show to come out and circulate a little, just so that they can check everyone's temperature and make sure people are enjoying the characters before they jump in on a new line. With Spider-Man 2, because it's a sequel to a already very well received first game, technically first two games because we did have the Miles spin-off as well, they didn't have to wait, they just jumped right on in. First off with the Advanced Suit 2.0 for Peter and the 2.0 version of Miles. Now with Venom. And Venom is always a safe bet, especially when he is a giant freaking monster like this guy is. People have been saying for years, I don't want the Tom Hardy Venom, I want to wait for the Venom with the spider logo. Well, now's your chance, my friend, because he has a huge spider logo on his chest. He himself is also physically significantly bigger than the Tom Hardy version. So if you find that the Sony movie Venom isn't quite big enough for your display, this one should fit the bill. You can see in this cabinet how big he is compared to Peter and Miles. He dwarfs them. Although most of the time in the game, and you can see this in the trailers as well, Venom is crunched down and hunched forward, making him look a little bit more creature-esque, giving him this very hulking presence. So even though I do think this guy is ever so slightly overscaled at 53 centimeters tall in total, just standing straight up and down museum posing it, when you have him crunched forward like he is in the game, matching that posture, I reckon this guy does start to make a little bit more sense and fit in scale with the two Spideys. Then when you start to get dynamic with the posing, having Miles and Peter facing off against him, just be careful of their rubbery style suits, then it starts to make even more sense. You can have Peter in the background filling up that vertical space and Miles down below grounding the three-figure pose. I also really like the Venomized little tendrils coming off his back. Oh, and by the way, they are removable, so if you decide you don't want to have Venom looking as busy as he does here with the bits and pieces coming off his back and his forearms, maybe you want to mix and match, or just go for an entirely clean look for Venom, you absolutely can. You do get multiple hands, closed fists, open palm hands, and the Venomized long finger hands that you saw on him and you will see again a little bit later. His fingernails are massive. The skin texture isn't really there, instead it's all this very slick, glossy, slimy looking surface. You would have seen in the trailers that the Venomized look for Peter and for Venom is this living, moving, slick-like surface. It shifts around as you see these characters in-game. They couldn't necessarily capture that in figure format. I think this is close enough. You can see the undulations on the surface, you can see the vein work, and hitting it with that gloss gives it that slick effect that I was after. Now you do get two different head sculpts, just like the Tom Hardy version of Venom, but with three different tongues on this particular one. The eyes also have that smoky effect around the edge, and some of that subtle vein work on the white for the eyes. There's this furrowed brow effect with the crinkling of the skin in the middle, and you have these massive spiky teeth that are just so dirty and nasty and grimy. They've hit the tops of them with this darker wash, whereas the spikier bits, they're a little bit lighter when it comes to the paint, so it does help them stand out and look even sharper. He clearly has very poor dental hygiene because his tongues and his gums are bright red. And like I said, 3 different tongues in total, going in all different directions, and the tongues themselves are very, very large. Now, both of these head sculpts I like. I've got to go with the tongue head sculpt though, especially with that bright white spider symbol on the chest. If you did want to pop one of the tongues into the more grinning mouth head sculpt, you can. The middle picture there and the bottom one, that shows you what that looks like. So you're not married to having to use the fully wide open jaw head sculpt with the teeth spread out. If you want to use one of the tongues, you can still do that with the more grinning head sculpt. The display base, perfect choice. Here though, he isn't actually standing on the display base. In my collection he will be, quite interesting with the choice of pose. It's based on pictures alone, the proportions and the engineering is almost identical to the Tom Hardy Venom figure. The feet are plugged in separately on double ball pegs. You can see the seam if you look very, very closely. That means you can move those glossy feet with the spiky toenails sticking out of the toes, and not have to worry about stressing out a seamless material. Unlike what's happening here with the knees. Now, it seems like they solved that peeling issue that the very first version of Tom Hardy's Venom had from the first Venom movie, because my Venom Let There Be Carnage figure hasn't had any of that peeling going on. So I think that at this point they've dialed down this style of material to a science. I reckon this guy's going to be pretty sturdy. For the surface layer, cracking, degrading by having his joints bent for a long period of time, still a question mark. Those other Venom figures haven't quite been out for long enough for me to call it and say that, yeah, it's going to be safe in crazy poses, or that it isn't. We will just have to wait and see. This right here, this spider symbol looks mean. It looks menacing, and I adore the fact that it extends up over his shoulders onto the back spider symbol. Super dynamic, and they've added the little black veins onto the surface of it, so that it doesn't look too boring and it doesn't look like too much of a stark contrast against the black of the suit. White and black, two completely reverse colors. This could be too much of a bright spider symbol if they hadn't have added all of the airbrush shading and the speckling and the vein work. I'm glad they dialed it down a little. There are also these spikies coming off the spider legs. It's not just a smooth symbol. And it's an asymmetrical design. It's not exactly mirrored from one side to the other, as you can see right here. In fact, the top of the spider has one of the spikes being slightly longer than the other. Now, it does extend over the back, and there will be those little plug cap pieces to cover up the holes left by the symbiote tendrils. Not ideal, I would rather there not be holes that you have to fill at all. Doing it this way just means that the rubbery material will contract around the plug pieces, so they should look a touch more seamless than, say, the shoulders, for example. With very bright, harsh lights like we have here just shining directly at the shoulders, yes, you can see the seams. Super visible and quite ugly. In person, because of the rough textured look of the shiny black symbiote and everything else going on, it's quite a busy look for Venom, they don't stand out as much, is what I've been told by Ryan, who did have the pleasure of seeing this guy in person. I do want to make sure I'm not contradicting myself, because I know, earlier I did say I think they've solved the peeling issue with Venom. Still, sliding on some PVC/ABS rubbery tendril pieces onto this seamless body, that is a lot of friction, especially when you're posing him. That's sliding around on the surface. Even if they have sealed this dude with the strongest, craziest sealant ever, I would still exercise caution. That's not to say don't use them, just dial in the pose first and then revisit adding the tendrils. Either on both sides or just one. Asymmetry, symmetry, mix it up, just go for it. I like them because they add some visual interest to the arms. Otherwise, they might have come across a little bit boring. They don't have the crazy HD skin texture of the movie version of Venom or the white veins to fall back on. These arms are significantly smoother and a lot glossier. So having these tendrils sticking off them and the massive spiky fingernails with that rough texture to the hand so it blends in with the tendril pieces, I don't mind if I do. So yeah, I think I will be displaying my Venom like this, with the massive claw hands on. And his fingers are not symmetrical. There are bigger ones and there are smaller ones, a whole bunch of different sizes in fact. These should be slightly rubbery, so if you're worried about him toppling over and falling on these tendril pieces and then breaking, don't be. Usually this stuff is more forgiving, a little bit softer like I said. They should be flexible enough so that they won't break if you put any pressure on them or this guy takes a shelf dive. All 53 centimeters of him. I still cannot believe how big this figure is. He's larger than most quarter scale figures, which is just insane. I don't know how many people are going to be able to fit this guy in the collection. Shit, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to fit him in the collection. He's too badass not to get though. He's coming home and hell or high water, I am finding a way of putting this bad boy into the display. Whether or not that means that I have to rearrange an entire section, I will do what I have to do to get this done. Some people have been saying that, oh well, now I can sell my Tom Hardy Venom. I'm not sure about that. For me personally, and I know not everyone collects the same, we all collect for different reasons, I liked the Venom movies, and that's why I decided to pick up Venom. I didn't just get that figure because I wanted a random Venom in the display. I liked Tom Hardy, I liked that film, and there's a connection to the MCU, so that's why I picked up that version. I'm picking up this version because I like this Venom. He's from the PS5 video game, I enjoyed the game, so that's why I decided to go ahead and pick up this one as well. So you see what I mean? I'm not just picking it up for a random Venom. I want these because they are character-specific iterations of Venom. I hope that makes sense. Now, this head sculpt, the screaming one with the tongue sticking out, just curling around, coming at you with the teeth all flared out and the eyes crunched up, very intimidating, and it has a lot of presence. My favorite detail about the head sculpt is that the top lip is being peeled up. You can see it flaring out to reveal his top gums, and the teeth are even bigger with the screaming head sculpt. You can see a little bit of a seam line underneath the tongue and around the edge. I don't think that's a massive deal, especially when you have the head sculpt tilted down, which you will very likely have to do because not many figures are going to be able to look at Venom at eye level when he's standing straight up and down. He will be looking down at most figures in the display, I would imagine. They've also captured that really slick, glossy look to the tongue and the inside of the mouth. Somehow, the mouth looks even slicker and glossier as compared to Venom's head and the rest of his body. I do believe both head sculpts are magnetic. That translates to almost unlimited range of motion with the head sculpts. Looking down and burying the chin, even if they don't articulate the neck, which I think they will, usually they do give Venom a ratcheted neck underneath the rubbery material, you will be able to get him looking all the way down, and looking all the way up in case Spidey's jumping down at him. You don't have to worry about a double ball peg sitting inside a neck connector. As long as the magnets grab, you can just do pretty much anything. These magnetic head sculpts, magnetic neck connectors to be specific, I think are the future. For figures like Spider-Man, when you have that separate head sculpt and neck joint, why not do a magnetic neck connector? Then you can go absolutely mental with the posing. Same thing with Iron Man. If you could tilt his head all the way back without having to worry about gaps or hinges or nastiness, you could get him in a really sick looking flying pose. They've dabbled with magnetic heads every now and then. I just want them to make it ubiquitous with any figures that do need that extra little push for dynamic posing. Who knows, we'll have to wait and see. I'm just really glad they gave it to Venom. This guy, the proportions, the bulk, the size, he has presence. He fills up this entire cabinet, and usually these things can be filled up by multiple 1/6 scale figures. With Venom, he takes center stage, as he should do. In the game, he kicks some serious butt, so in 1/6 scale, oh yes, I am very, very excited to get this guy in. I am curious to see if they are going to continue the Spider-Man 2 PS5 line and make various different suits and other characters from the game. At this point, we will just have to wait and see. Right now, Peter, Miles, Symbiote Suit Spidey, and Venom, I'm pretty happy actually. If they called it quits right now, yes, I would still like to see more. I would still be satisfied at this point in time. Now, I pre-ordered mine from Pop Collectibles. As always, do your own research, make sure you're comfortable before buying. I have popped the link to their site in the description below, along with the discount code Justin's Collection. For 5% off your order, if you do decide to buy from them. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.